Hello everyone. First, sorry for my voice. I'm trying to be as fast as possible and as succinct so that you can, don't have a bad experience. Good. Today's agenda. We're going to run through a short introduction, a bit of threat intelligence history, TI typologies. Next, we're going to TI fundamentals or one-on-ones, how we measure things that we are really doing good, what we are doing, and then a set of takeaways. Short bio, I'm a CTA professional, threat intelligence and hunting manager at Signify, previously known as Philips Lighting, Hue bulbs, yeah. To put a picture in perspective. I'm working in security for 10 years now, with vast experience in vulnerability management, application security, pen testing, and lately, digital forensic and incident response. Some of you might know me from previously OWASP conferences. I've been part of those events, and for the past 2 years and 3 months, I've relocated myself to the Netherlands. So basically, I'm working at Signify's headquarters, where I started to organize some close CTI groups, which I'm part of, and as in threat intelligence community, sharing is caring. I decided to share some of the stories that I've been able to accumulate while meeting with TI vendors of platforms or feeds, with other TI specialists from various verticals across the Netherlands and Benelux area. So yeah, let's hope that everything is going to entertain you. Disclaimer, these stories are not necessarily from my employers. I'm speaking for myself. Our stories collected throughout this 2.5 years almost period while meeting with CTI professionals. So first thing first, what is threat intelligence? Definitely not IOCs. Definitely not a platform. Definitely not a feed. TI is more than that. Yeah, obviously, this is a cliche. The definition that Gartner set up. So threat intelligence is evidence-based knowledge, including context, mechanisms, indicators about existing emerging threats. Again, it's not mine, it's Gartner, so we have to believe them, I guess. Kudos for these slides goes to Andreas Sfakianakis, which is a CTI at Shell, the oil and gas company in the Netherlands. And in one of his presentations earlier this year, he created a short timeline of when TI appeared, or when first signs of TI appeared, and what were the major milestones. You might be familiar with Cuckoo's Egg from Clifford Stoll in late 80s. In Lawrence Berkeley Laboratory, he conducted probably the first digital forensic investigation. Basically, a guy from East Berlin, a KGB officer, tried to infiltrate to their university network and get out with some data. He conducted the first investigation then. Along the 2000s, we've seen we receive a lot of warnings and against targeted socially engineered email, dropping Trojans to exfiltrate sensitive data, and this information were published by either UK CERT or USA CERT. That doesn't necessarily mean that until 2010 nothing happened. No, there was huge activity, but until 2010 there weren't that many open source reports. So moving next, we had Stuxnet. I guess everyone knows what Stuxnet is. In 2011, Cybersecurity Kill Chain was published by Lockheed Martin. First written report of APT1 by Mandiant, and STIX1 framework was released in 2013. Moving next. One more next. We had Heartbleed, yeah, the first vulnerability with PR associated with it, with nice logos and proprietary website and everything. Then 2015, we had Attack Mitre framework, Petya, WannaCry, Spectre, Meltdown a little bit later, And in between, guess what? We had countless APT groups, cyber criminals, nation-state actors trying to hack into like everything. Good. So the question is now, who's going to keep track of everything, of all these actors? Well, the good news or the bad news is that that guy is you. And the second question is, are we there yet? Do we have enough frameworks? Do we have enough technologies? I don't know, trainings, people trained to do that? Well, historically speaking, cyber defense has been considered a reactive job. Yeah, so we have a critical vulnerability, we have to patch it. We have an intrusion, we have to remediate that fast. Well, the paradigm changed a bit, and this approach is no longer sufficient. So that's why we have to, for the emerging cyber threats, we need to handle them with cyber threat intelligence best practices, rather through a classic default SOC or IR mechanism. Bit of history with security operations centers. They have been mainstream since 2005, more or less. They were focused more on internal security and security monitoring. For this type of services, we have mature best practices and standards, and yeah, enough tech to buy and implement. What about vulnerability management? Study says that it's adopted on large scale since 2008. It's focused on internal and external vulnerabilities. Hardly focused on patching, on reactively patching, and yeah, we have still a lot of improvements to do in the responsible disclosure area. Mature best practices, we have a lot. Tools and technologies, yeah, open source, commercial, plenty of those. What about incident response? Well, started to be mainstream since 2010, more or less, focused on incident remediation and risk escalation. We have plenty of best practices, courses, materials, and guess what? We have some regulatory controls as well that we have to meet. Tools and tech, plenty. Next, final, threat intelligence. We are still in the early stages of adoption with this one. Throughout my experience, I still see people that are not necessarily dedicated for threat intel, but they are half VM TI, incident response TI, or it's a part-time job or a job done by a person from time to time. Mainly focus it's on external threat, not necessarily on insider threats or similar aspects. The good news is that we are catching up fast. There's a huge community behind this one, and even though the tools are limited by the moment, comparing with SOC and IR, we are evolving quite fast. So, moving forward towards common TI topologies. As I said, I've been meeting with a lot of companies on one-on-one meetings, also in larger environments while attending conferences or events organized by TI vendors, be it platform or feeds or whatever. And I've kind of summarized 4 big typologies and mistakes that are being made. First typology is the anchorman, the threat intelligence, which is an anchorman. What this person does usually sends out a news or a link on a Slack, or on Skype, on a Teams, or whatever. Broadcasting news, spreading fear, and in the same time gives a false sense of security to everyone. Definitely a TI guy should not do that. Don't send just a link. Give some context around that one. The next type is crying wolf. I wanted to name this one before the Undertaker, the grave digger. Why is that? Because this type of threat intelligence analyst comes either from an MSSP, either it's a vendor or internal or an external threat intelligence analyst who wants to impress your CISO or your SOC manager, hoping that he might be hired or something. I have no idea what are his intents. And basically, he's sending out emails to you, to the threat analyst, CCing again your CISO or your SOC manager with, I don't know, copy-paste from dark web, news about a set of credentials from your company being on sale, yeah, or being on market on dark web, or similar stuff like that, or your IPs being exposed. Usually, these types of persons literally can throw you under the bus and can derail you from your course, from your natural way of doing things, towards a firefighting activity. Because guess what? The CISO or the SOC will come to you and ask you, hey, what's with that? Why didn't you find out that before? Why do I have to be informed by somebody else? Next, we'll have the handyman. This actually is a very funny one. I was invited to attend an event at a vendor, at a threat intelligence platform vendor and feeds at the same time, to have a presentation how I use the platform that we've acquired. Soon after that, we were asked by the vendor, hey, what types of features do you like to see next in the platform? So it was like a change advisory board, more or less. And one of the clients present there, they bought the tool, and they started to come up with some crazy features. They wanted to build in a messaging module. They wanted to build super advanced role-based access control to give access to that platform to hundreds of people from the business, so that they can spread out news, events, threat advisory, newsletters, and so on and so forth. And the guys, the vendors, were like, dude, sorry, you're doing it wrong. You're doing completely wrong. You buy a scissors while you needed a hammer. Thus, the handyman. Yeah? So you literally don't know what you've purchased. Last but not least is the cheap bastard, I've called it. In one of my one-on-ones meeting with another company from a separate industries, usually during these occurrences, we try to exchange information about, hey, what feeds are you using? Are they relevant for you? Talking about vendors, how do you perform various operational tasks? And this person said something like, hey, we do not use a threat intelligence platform. We do not use threat intelligence at all because they generate incidents. And we have a cap in terms of how many incidents we can raise with our MSSP. That translates into, hey, we are in the week 3 of the month. We reached the cap. IR guys, you're free to go. From my perspective, that's completely wrong doing CTI. So now a question towards you, and I really want some answers. What do you believe at least one common thing these 4 typologies have? What do they miss?
They're all dependent on external forces?
Not really. Another try maybe? What do they miss? Sorry? Intelligence as well. I'm going to help you. Requirements, setting up requirements, and this is the bedrock of threat intelligence. If you don't have requirements set up, you have no idea what you are doing. You're going to, as I said, send out news, send out links, act as a firefighter. Then, what type of requirements do we need and have? Strategic. You need to know in what sector of business you're working, in what countries, what are your critical assets, yeah, your crown jewels, what systems are important and critical and might be appealing for the bad actors. Operational. You need to have requirements from people, processes, procedures. You need feeds as well, service providers. Technical. So you need to define requirements for your SOC tooling, your IOCs. You have to know how much network visibility you have on your company. And last but not least, tactical. Yeah. Good. And who's going to do all those things? That's you. That's you, the threat intelligence guy or girl or department. And that's the bad news. The good news is that you are not alone. You're not alone in this process because you need to have some requirements from the CISO office. Many companies have their CISO department set up in various shapes. You have to go to risk to the risk and compliance, check the risk registries. What are your risk accepted so far? Are you vulnerable in that space or not? Awareness. You have to feed back some information to the awareness manager, to brand security, to production, basically to your business. Yeah, you're offering threat intelligence and you try to protect the business itself. They are the driver. Supply chain, it's a very important one. Contract and vendor management. If you have an MSSP or whatnot supplier in your supply chain, you want to know how vulnerable that guy is or that company is, because guess what? That's an inherited risk for your business as well. Others, I don't know, procurements, facilities, marketing, IT. You need to know what software and hardware are you using so that you know what to look after outside. And last but not least, I put it separately, SOC. IR data, instant response, vulnerability management, red teaming, and so on, depending on how your SOC is structured, can have huge input from your side or vice versa. In the middle, it's you, the threat intelligence person. But that's just, that's just the first phase of the threat intelligence lifecycle. Planning and direction, setting up requirements, talking to the business, talking to IT, to other departments, knowing try to figure out what you have to do. What's next? Yeah, the idea is that if you have some requirements set up, you will eventually be able to dodge the anchorman's news and the undertaker as well. Whereas for the other two cases, the handyman and cheap bastards, sorry, but you are still doing completely wrong. Moving next, trying to bring some solutions or way to organize your work in such way that you will not become one of the 4 typologies, or to try to escape the trap that they are trying to set up to you. Templatize everything. Create processes, deliver consistent with repeatable actions with foreseeable results. Before automizing everything, you have to put things in template. Threat intelligence briefs, awareness messages. Whenever you have a news breaking in the news outlets, you have to have the template prepared. You have to have your words with you. You have to put it in writing and send it out fast. You don't want to have your CISO bringing the news towards you. You have to go first. Technical reports, responses to RFIs, vulnerability intelligence, and metrics. Templatize everything so that you can act fast. A few examples. Threat advisory reports. Actually, this is another common mistake and a story from a field. I was in discussions with a threat intelligence platform and feed provider for a proof of concept. And he was like, hey, you know what? During this period, you can ask us how many things you want. Countless RFIs you can send towards us. I was like, yeah, awesome, let's use that. And guess what? I've tested that product. What that guy was doing, or that product, that service, sending me copy-paste from various articles from the internet. Dude, I'm trying to leverage you as a service to help me in streamlining my process. I can do that part myself. So that's why I'm saying templatize everything. Have a defined structure, bottom line up front. Yeah, use the bluff for the executives, for your CISO. He has to figure out everything from that one slide. What? Give some information about the threat details. So what? Afterwards, okay, we have that threat. How does that impact us? So what of the so what? What can we do about it? What compensatory controls can we bring to stay protected? Recommendations, sources, and then some appendixes. Moving next, vulnerability intelligence. Vulnerability management department should be your friend. You're not going to impress VM if you're going to send them vulnerabilities. They have tons of them. They have tons of emails with reports, with follow-ups to patch, with critical vulnerabilities that are not being solved, so on and so forth. Put things put things in a template. Start small. Start with an Excel. Start with an email. Give them also an overview of what's happening and explain them how this vulnerability that you're sending them, it's more important than they already have in pipeline. Again, requirements. If you know what your critical assets are, your software and hardware inventory, you can work on developing such templates for the critical assets that you have. Phishing, that's an important one, isn't it? I think it's still the most important attack vector that is used by the cyber criminals, nation states, and so on and so forth. If you're not analyzing phishings, you likely have little knowledge of who's attacking you. Sorry. Oops. Do you know what campaigns have been targeting you? What types of phishing do you have? Were they looking for credential harvesting? Were they looking for dropping malware, accessing a URL, something else? Try to inventory those things. Again, start small. Start with an Excel. Go to a collaborative platform. Put it there in order to collect this data. Yeah, some samples of phishing emails that can be used to drag and drop information in your templates. Oops. So we are in the second phase. Yeah, we started to collect data. But yeah, what are you going to do with them? My solution is measure success. Try to define some metrics. This is a metric, a graph taken from Threat Connect. They are a threat intel provider. You have plenty of metrics out there, but if you are going to count how many reports you are issuing, that's probably not going to help that much. If you're going to count how many IOCs you've seen in various, you have from a threat intel vendor, how many of those IOCs generated some incidents, you might have some return of investment. Good. I'm proposing some of the metrics, some metrics here. You've started to register those data in Excel collaborative platform, whatnot. You have one year worth of data. Put them in perspective. Try to understand what do the lows and high means. Here in May, you might have implemented the SPF checks and DefCamp. Yeah, so logically you'll have a drop in terms of phishing emails. Next, in August, I don't know, maybe a vacation season. Try to understand why you have such low numbers of phishings. Whoa, we have a spike here. Black Friday is approaching. Everyone is bombarding us with offers and whatnot. They try to drop us malware, to steal our credentials. Try to understand and read the numbers. What if you add another criteria there? Geolocation. Yeah, you've registered again over a year. You split it all the phishing categories, and guess what? You see that in Africa you have fraud on the rise. Take that information with you, draw some conclusion, and use them a little bit later in the presentation. Credential harvesting, that's an important one. What about trying to understand what departments are more prone to be phished? Yeah, what department with what type of category of phishing attempts? Disseminate that information. Try to figure out who are your enemies and what they are trying to get out from your company. Good, but you had enough of writing emails and Excels and putting things on the collaborative platform. Try to integrate and automate, and why not orchestrate some of these actions. On display, the picture itself, it's an architecture I've drawn many years ago. In the top, you have a SaaS solution, a threat intelligence platform. In the middle, you have a staging server, so an integrator that you probably have it on-prem. And then you have integrations. Top left with your IT service management tool, yeah? The place where you store your incidents, your security incidents. Store there some IOCs. Create an integration and try to drag some information from the threat intelligence platform and enrich the data of those IOCs. Give some context additional to the incident management guys. In the right side, there's the web filtering solution. If you're certain that some IOCs are really, really bad, sinkhole them, block them. Yeah, you keep seeing phishing coming from websites or from domains that are similar to your brand. Yeah, DefCamp with 2 Fs or Punicode or whatever. Take that information, send it to Office 365 or whatever mail gateway you have. Block the incoming emails from those attackers, but also collect that information for further analysis. Also connected to the SIEM, to the endpoint detect and response tool, and why not create a DNS sinkholing solution. Send to Narnia all the IOCs that you strongly believe that are bad. Good. What you can do with this one afterwards? In the vulnerability intelligence, you can start aggregating known CVE that are being exploited with the vulnerabilities that are being scanned and are present in your SIEM. Create some use cases. Raise priority in terms of patching so that VM will know when to act and where to act. That will also help IR to act faster on the configuration items on the servers that are affected by an incident and are also vulnerable to a known exploitable vulnerability. Are you collecting data about a specific software that keeps popping up in your news? Try to automate patching. Convince the business to get rid of that one because it's a risk that will remain in your company for the rest of your life. Be proactive. Think of things. Phishing intelligence. You can have tailored awareness messages and tailored simulated phishing campaigns. I keep seeing that, hey, you receive a parcel from DHL, click here. That's irrelevant. That's irrelevant for finance department or for someone from R&D that is not receiving any goods anytime. Take that information to the CISO office, to the security board, to your security architect, and draw some conclusion. Build up your security roadmap for your following years. Also use the threat intelligence feed in a smart way. It's up to you to figure out where you want to enrich the information that you have in your incidents. Is it in the SIEM? Is it before you hit a use case? After you hit a use case? You may have some limitation, probably with VirusTotal or with the domain tools in terms of how many API calls you can have per second. If you're going to ingest millions of IOCs in your SIEM, guess what? Your cost will increase and you'll hit the thresholds for the APIs that are being limited. Good. Next. Try to understand the IOCs that you've collected part of the incidents. From which threat intelligence they've come. Are they relevant for us or not? Because if you're, I don't know, oil and gas company, and if you're buying a threat intelligence provider that is more geared towards financial institutions, sorry, but you've picked your wrong battles. Look at these informations. Take outside the open source threat intel that are not relevant to you, filtrate things, and draw some conclusions again from this data. Most of the IOCs nowadays comes with tags. They have associated with them the malware family, maybe a geolocation. Some of the threat intel providers have started to attach also cybersecurity kill chain, indicator of compromise. Some of the the feeds vendors started to attach cybersecurity kill chain tags there, so that you might know that IOC for what type of the what type of attack in which phase of the cybersecurity kill chain is happening. Again, take that information, play with it. Data is gold. The next slide, it's borrowed from David J. Bianco, the guy that invented or patented the pyramid of pain. I've seen this in one of the conferences I've attended earlier this year. Try to put in perspective things. You have frameworks. You have the pyramid, the diamond model. You have cybersecurity kill chain. You have attack mitre. Take those things, try to combine them based on what you believe is best for you. It's good to know what types of IOCs you have in comparing to pyramid of pain versus cybersecurity kill chain. Top left, it's a good quadrant. Yeah, it's good to see some some artifacts in the delivery stage versus just IOCs. IOCs are easy to collect, artifacts a little bit harder. Again, write down if you're able to catch up here some of your attacks, you're really good at. Top right is the best and hardest one. Again, take your IOCs, put them, use the frameworks, use the models, and define meaningful data. Good, so we moved fast. Requirements, collecting, processing, and exploring. We've drawn some metrics, we've analyzed them a bit. What we're going to do with them next? Try to not lie yourself. Don't cut corners. Try to figure out if the information that you've put it together are really true and meaningful for your company, from your environment, from your risk appetite, for your company's risk appetite. What's next? Filling the loop. You're going to go back. You're going to feed that information to the CISO office, to the business, to other departments, to IT, and to the SOC. Takeaways. Don't be a crying wolf, an undertaker, a handyman, or a cheap bastard. Do it smart. Know your requirements and fill the loop. Build your own requirements. Don't try to copy others' programs. It might not be a success. You have to adapt. As I said, a threat intelligence feed for a banking industry will not fit in manufacturing, oil and gas, automotive. It's a separate story. You might have some hits, but you're going to pay a heck of a lot of money on a feed that is not relevant to you. In the middle, CTI is more than feeds, IOCs, logs, and tech platforms. Good, those are enablers, but will not necessarily help mature your program. There are different approaches, maturity models, tools, and way to do it. And the final thought is wash, rinse, and repeat. Play the loop game over and over again, so that you can reach to a certain maturity level that you are really confident that it's good. Thank you very much. Questions?
So hi, I am a junior CTI and threat hunter, so I have 1,000 questions. If we have some time afterwards, I really would like to share some experience. But one of them would be like, based on your experience, what would be like the best dynamic inside a team of 9 people working in CTI and threat hunting combined? How do you give the roles? Do you give the roles, or should everybody like be good at the same stuff? Like that kind of dynamics. How do you split it up? And what did you what did you see that works best in those conditions?
Split roles and responsibilities amongst yourselves, because if you're going to have one person doing VM reporting and reports, it will get bored. Use job rotation within your team, micro job rotation. Templatize everything. You're bored of filling in templates, automate, move to the next step. I would say job rotation is the best example that the best answer that I can give you. Job rotation inside your teams, yeah. I've seen multiple approaches. Something like, sorry. As I said, look, I'm scrolling one side. Don't try to copy someone. Yeah. Adapt. I've seen companies in which they have an analyst of the day or something like that. So that analyst is responsible for all the incidents or all the alerts in the SIEM or for an entire week. I've seen other companies which have really strict roles and responsibilities defined with very small amount of overlap between teams. It's up to you. If you have 9 people in your CTI, I do invite you a lot. Okay.
All right, let's take some more questions.
Hey.
You had like common mistakes in the field, like in the title of yours.
Yep.
What was the most disastrous, or to be honest, funniest implementation of CTI you've ever seen? Like you've already given us the example of the handyman where they wanted a social network instead of CTI.
That's the worst, and I haven't said everything on that one. So funny thing is that 2-3 months after that event, I went to the other company and we had like a very intimate meeting and we started to share how we do things. And they said that they had to go in their knees to their CISO to beg for the integrator, the thing in the middle, because they were just collecting feeds, but guess what? They were not delivering them to the downstream systems, to the EDR, to the SIEM, to the, I don't know, DNS sinkhole, whatever you have. Know your requirements, know what you want to do. Okay, you have like a lot of money. I do invite you, but do it smart, please. And the second one with the Undertaker, a story that I forgot to mention. Again, in a one-on-one meeting with another company, there was a guy that literally was exasperated by a fellow TI guy who had sent him 75 emails in the past year with news, with things that he believed that they were not worthy. But again, he CC'd the CISO again. So that guy literally for 1 year has to justify that he's doing his job right while trying to literally say that that guy is stupid. Out of those 75 RFIs, let's put it this way, just 2 are relevant. So basically, again, he had to work 1 year time to make his case, to go to the CISO and say, hey, just ignore that guy. That's why I said, Undertaker, literally they can throw you under the bus and derail from your focus.
All right, let's take some more questions on that side.
Super presentation, thank you for wrapping up conceptually. You had a slide with success management, and my question is, in order to get to this performance indicator of revenue saved, what do you do with return of mitigation when you don't have any monitoring available?
I literally cannot hear anything.
So, you had a slide with success management, and there you had revenue saved.
Yes.
And my question is, what do you do with return of mitigation and any quantifiable or indicators when you don't have any monitoring available? So say, for example, you don't have SAST, you don't have SIEM, and so on.
You don't have what? Sorry, the last 2 words?
You don't have any monitoring available, so you don't have an SIEM or SAST.
Okay, I see. Okay, good.
So, but still the question is, how do you just justify your effort on mitigation and on security? Because this is really difficult, but I wonder if you have any ideas.
No, literally no. I can say I'm lucky. I literally cannot understand how people are doing CTI without having a SIM or an EDR or some logs in there. Good. You can look at you can monitor. Actually, I may have an answer. You can monitor things about your brand, your products on the dark web, on the dark net. Try to figure out what type of information the threat actor might have stolen from you, and make an outside impression of how things work without having internal.
So it's like a news monitoring or something like that, really.
Sort of. Again, I'm really privileged to have some visibility in what I'm doing.
Yeah, that's definitely important.
Without that one,
the CISO from Akamai actually mentioned visibility as a main component.
Focus on the outside worlds. Maybe there are some threat intelligence feeds and platforms that can help you in that direction.
Thanks very much.
Thanks.
Yeah, one more question.
Hi. Do you think that it would be beneficial for SOC to take part of the threat hunting activities with the CTI team?
Wow. That's another common mistake. God damn it. So, I cannot understand how a CTI team is outside of SOC. I cannot believe it. So, I had another one-on-one meeting with another vendor in the financial sector, and the CTI team was under legal. So completely outside of the SOC, they had some threat intelligence platform with some feeds, but no correlation with the incidents and event monitoring logs and everything. So what I can disclose something from my job. I'm literally sitting between VM and IR, incident management, incident response. I cannot see myself working differently as a CTI or threat intelligence / threat hunting professional.
Do you find honeypots useful? Because they're quite cheap to emulate.
Yep. Honeypots, deception technologies. Yeah, obviously, that's super useful to have in your network, outside of your network. Collect the information, try to figure out what TTPs are being used against you or can be potentially used against you, and yeah, use that information, put it in reports, fill the loop.
Any other questions? Okay.
There's another one here.
Hi, two-part question.
Please.
So to start off, I take offense to your just 4 generalization of the type of personalities when it comes to TI. I think that each of them are very important. Like the crying wolf is important because if you're going to talk to business owners, you don't want to do that 50 times over and over. So self-management on that one helps. The handyman is going to be good because if you don't have buy-in from the business side, then you're not going to buy the product. I do understand why the cheap bastard is seen as a problem, but the cheap bastard is also what's keeping us from becoming handyman in a different area. So
that's
also a thing. But part of the question is basically where do you find yourself between those, or how would you describe yourself in terms of personality of those 4 types that you presented?
I'm none of those 4 typologies.
But then don't you feel that would have been your obligation to also list that as because basically you only bashed on the type of personalities that you've encountered, and I'm not trying to put you down. I'm just saying that wouldn't it have been a bit more helpful to also provide the positive examples, not just what to avoid?
So here, as in threat advisory reports, this is the evolved way of anchorman. So you read the news about an external threat or vulnerability, put it in a report, send it, broadcast it.
Which is true, but you could have started with that argument that you, the anchor man, can go to this result, and this would have been your start, this would have been your end, and that would have been more helpful on that one. And my second question would be, I love the diagram for the orchestration, but what have, or if you have ever implemented that, like what was the ratio of false positive, and like what was the business impact afterwards when you implemented it?
At first, false positive rates were high, but again, wash, rinse, repeat.
True.
Take that information, try to figure out what's the ballast, put that away, and keep inside only the meaningful information that can help your business.
And then how would you have faced the pushback? So if, for instance, I would move you to like a different area, and let's say you'd work for Schneider, it would still be electric, and you work with other types of panels. And obviously, those IOCs are like, you can't necessarily DNS sync just based off of that. So how would you have dealt with that to still filter out the stuff that you legitimately need and you're never going to go into? Would you have taken them into consideration or treated it separately to vet them? Or would you have still automated them and then flushed them out during the rinse?
Second option, maybe flush them out as they do not seem to be relevant.
Let's take one more question.
Please, go ahead.
That's strange. Okay, so threat data is relatively easy to come by. You can just tons of threat data. Now, are there any best practices for retiring threat data, retiring IOCs, retiring artifacts, and so on?
This one. Do they produce incidents or not? That's first one thing that I would do.
What about if certain infrastructure or something is being reused?
I cannot hear.
So what if malware infrastructure, for example, is being reused? There is a quiet period for about 6 months, and then it starts to get reused again?
Good, let's put it this way. If you're going to buy a feed from a vendor, you'll end up with millions of ISCs over the night. If you're going to buy 2, 3, 4 vendors, you will have millions multiplied with that number. If you put that information into a Splunk, that will generate a heck a lot of costs, additional costs. Yeah? If you go to your CISO with that, probably it will have to cut some of your budget. You have to do some, you have to make some, you have to take some decisions. You cannot have them all. So again, which one are the best and relevant for your business, for your program, for your appetite, risk appetite of your company?
Right. Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you for the presentation. It generated a lot of discussion.